a stranger among your own, one of your own among strangers. That's exactly how you could describe the Freightliner Argosy. It's the last classic American cabover, or schkobover, in the heavy truck class. With this extraordinary model, an entire era of trucks came to an end, machines that for over 30 years were the true kings of America's highways. But how did it happen that, at home, the Argosy became an outcast, forced into the shadows of gray schemes, deceiving the all-powerful tax authorities and the Environmental Protection Agency? And why, at the same time, was this truck adored in faraway South Africa and on the desert roads of Australia? Today, we're going to tell the story of the last dinosaur of American roads. Subscribe to the channel, get comfortable, and let's get started. It all began in 1998. The American company Freightliner, which was part of a German giant Daimler-Benz, introduced its new cabover model, the Argosy. For many, this move seems somewhat paradoxical. It's like releasing the perfect button phone at a time when everyone has already switched to smartphones, because the era of cabovers was already irreversibly coming to an end. The meteorite effect for these highway dinosaurs came in 1982. It was then that the US government passed a law that radically changed the rules of the game. It finally abolished the strict limits on the total length of road trains that had been in place for decades in many states. Now, only the length of the trailer itself was strictly regulated. It was not allowed to exceed 14.5 meters. This kind of rule liberalization was a breath of fresh air for many carriers, who could now return to their favorite conventional trucks. Most long-haul truck drivers were also happy about this. Now for them, the days of bouncing on the front axle in cramped cabs next to roaring engines that generously shared their excess heat were over. In contrast, a classic conventional truck always means safety up front, where the engine provides protection in a head-on collision, and comfort in the back, where you can rest in a cozy sleeper compartment. This compartment was no longer restricted by any size regulations and could truly be a home on wheels. In addition, these tractors had better aerodynamics, fuel efficiency, and easier access to the engine. On top of that, there was also a purely psychological factor at play. For the American trucker, a classic long-nosed tractor with lots of chrome has always been a symbol of freedom and status. Meanwhile, cabovers were often seen as purely corporate vehicles, driven by rookies or hired drivers working for large fleets. The 1982 law finally tipped the scales, and classic-style tractors quickly began to push cabovers out of the long-haul trucking industry. In the 80s and 90s, leading American automakers began to phase out cabover engine models one after another. Sales kept declining, but at Freightliner, they didn't lose hope. They believed that things could still be turned around. They just needed to improve the quality of the trucks themselves, make them more comfortable, safer, and more aerodynamic. And what helped in this effort was the experience of their German parent company, Daimler-Benz, which picked up on a European trend for high cabs with flat floors and created its own flagship long-haul truck, the Mercedes-Benz Actros. Their combined efforts paid off. In 1998, the American company introduced the revolutionary new Freightliner Argosy, which was set to replace the outdated FLB series tractors. The new cabover truck had plenty of surprises in store. A tall aluminum cab with a semi-monocoque safety frame, and a large slanted windshield that improved visibility and overall aerodynamics. Inside the cab, there was even more space and a completely flat floor, allowing drivers to stand up straight and walk at full height. Behind the seats was a spacious integrated sleeper, available in several depth options. The workspace could please the driver with an adjustable seat with an adjustable armrests and an ergonomic instrument panel, finished in wood and designed in the trendy angular configuration of that time. The real highlight of the Argosy was its retractable steps. Their mechanism was activated when opening or closing the doors, which greatly improved access to the high cab. Under the floor of these new models rumbled reliable and proven Detroit Series 60 inline 6-cylinder diesel engines, with displacements of 12.7 and 14 liters, producing between 470 and 500 horsepower. Engines from Cummins with 530 horsepower were also available. All these power units were paired with Eaton Fuller transmissions, featuring 10, 13, and 15 speeds. For export markets, especially in Australia, the trucks were equipped with unsynchronized 18-speed Road Ranger gearboxes. The model was not built on its own chassis, but rather on the standard frame of the bonneted Freightliner Century series. The combined suspension, leaf springs in the front and air suspension in the rear, made the tractor extremely versatile in terms of usage. In road trains with standard configuration, the total weight increased to 40 tons. But the real magic began with the special modifications for Australia. Thanks to reinforced chassis, Meritor axles, and Hendrickson suspensions, the total weight of local road trains could reach a staggering 140 tons. These were uncompromising heavy haulers that pulled several semi-trailers along tough desert roads. There, these cabover were loved for their maneuverability, comfort, and the reliability of their powertrains, which easily lasted over 1 million kilometers. As for the United States, things weren't so positive here. By the early 2000s, the fleets of the largest American companies had already been completely taken over by traditional long-nose trucks. Cabovers were pushed to the niche periphery, accounting for no more than 5% of total freight transport. They were only bought where maneuverability was absolutely critical, in public utilities, on regional routes, in logging, and at cramped urban construction sites and oil fields. So it's no surprise that year after year, Arox sales in the States remained consistently low. The final blow to the last heavy American cabover was dealt by the US Environmental Protection Agency. As part of the fight against global warming, environmentalists initiated a strict program to reduce harmful emissions. Starting in 2007, automakers were required to equip all new commercial vehicles with diesel engines featuring special exhaust cleaning systems. These included particulate filters and the Selective Catalytic Reduction (SCR) system. The main active agent in this system was AdBlue fluid, which neutralizes harmful nitrogen oxides and exhaust gases, turning them into ordinary nitrogen and water. Vehicles equipped with such complex equipment required separate certification. In addition, their price increased significantly, as did maintenance costs. For Freightliner, a company that produced the Arox in small batches, this increase in production costs was unjustifiably expensive. The final price of the new model rose excessively, making it unaffordable for small independent carriers, the main buyers of these trucks. Realizing that further production would be unprofitable, the brand decided in 2006 to officially halt sales of the Arox in the American market. However, demand among small operators still lingered. There were areas where it was simply impossible to do without the unique maneuverability of these vehicles. That's when Freightliner decided to go underground, using a semi-legal gray scheme to bypass the strict environmental regulations. Not fully assembled chassis, so-called glider kits, started rolling off the assembly line at the Cleveland plant. They had a new cab-over-cab, frame, axles, and suspension, but were missing key components, the engine and the transmission. In this form, the Arox were delivered to the customer, who would then, either on their own or with the help of third-party companies, complete the giant with refurbished components from old or wrecked trucks. Legally, such vehicles were considered not new, but refurbished, and therefore were not subject to the 12% excise tax that was mandatory when purchasing new commercial equipment. In addition, these Frankensteins were not subject to strict environmental standards and could easily be equipped with old turbo diesels without any complex filtration equipment. Overall, buying a glider costs small carriers 25 to 40% less than purchasing a brand new assembled model. About 1,500 to 2,000 of these semi-legal Arox were sold in the US each year, even after official production ended in 2006. Neither the Federal Tax Service nor environmentalists were thrilled about these maneuvers. Owners of the gliders actively argued with the Environmental Protection Agency. They insisted that the complicated exhaust cleaning equipment only increased fuel consumption and made operation incredibly expensive. Cars with the new Eco package broke down more often and spent longer in the shop for repairs. Meanwhile, environmentalists sounded the alarm, claiming that such tricks undermined the entire national system for reducing harmful emissions. After conducting its own tests on gliders with old engines, the agency discovered a shocking fact. These hybrids emitted 40 times more nitrogen oxide and particulates than new legal diesels. While scandals over gray schemes were raging in the US, the Freightliner company did not forget about exports. In 2012, an updated version of the second-generation Arox was released for South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. It did, however, receive modern and clean Detroit diesel DD15 and Cummins ASX engines, both with up to 620 horsepower. Now, drivers had access to the Eaton UltraShift Plus automated transmission, which significantly made driving easier and reduced fuel consumption. The exterior also underwent significant changes. A massive chrome grille appeared at the front, along with new aerodynamic headlights and stylish air intakes on the front fenders. And to eliminate the frequent engine overheating, which often plagued the first generation under the scorching Australian sun, the engineers installed a much larger radiator. This brutal and aggressive design was so impressive that the vehicle even became a Hollywood star. It was the 2014 Aurochs that played the menacing villain Galvatron in Michael Bay's blockbuster Transformers: Age of Extinction. Ironically, the truck, which by that time had already been exiled from the US, got its moment of worldwide fame precisely in an American movie. A huge amount of attention was paid to fuel efficiency. To save on diesel, the Aurochs got a cool aerodynamic package with deflectors on the cab pillars, a massive roof spoiler, aerodynamic mirrors, and side panels that neatly covered the tanks. The changes also affected the interior. The cabin boasted new trim, improved electronics, and a convenient cruise control. The depth of the sleeping compartment now measured a regal 2 meters and 79 centimeters. As before, the new Aurochs Evolution was supplied exclusively overseas. But already in 2014, South Africa dropped out of the export list. Demand for cabovers there had fallen, and sharp fluctuations in the local currency made purchases from America financially unviable. Moreover, the South African branch of Daimler-Benz decided to focus on their own cab-over engine Mercedes-Benz Actros models. The market for the Aurochs shrank to a critical minimum. For Freightliner, it simply became financially unfeasible to update the old platform to meet the new, even stricter environmental and safety standards for the sake of tiny export batches. That's why, in 2017, the company announced a gradual phase-out of Aurochs production for Australia and New Zealand. The final end of production came in 2020. And what about the gliders that were assembled for the US market, you might ask? That business also shut down with a bang. The Federal Tax Service changed the criteria. Now, disassembled chassis with old engines were legally equated to completely new commercial vehicles, and of course were subject to the same 12% tax. The biggest blow hit the well-known company, Fitzgerald Glider Kits. They were billed for unpaid excise taxes, fines, and penalties, totaling an astronomical sum of over $260 million. The final nail in the coffin was driven by the Environmental Protection Agency, which at the legislative level categorically banned the use of old, dirty engines on new chassis. Thus, a combination of ruthless factors, a sharp collapse in demand in the US, and the pressure of strict environmental standards pushed the last representative of this class beyond the point of profitability. And so, with a hint of scandal and lawsuits, the epical story of America's last cabover came to an end. And which truck style do you prefer, our dear viewers? Rugged conventional trucks or compact cabovers? Write your answers in the comments. Give us a like if you found the story interesting, and see you next time.